Hello, everyone. I'd like to start by saying thank you to BNB Chain and ChainIDE for hosting this bootcamp, and thank you for everyone who's attending today. I hope you're all enjoying these lectures. So, my topic is Matrix World. I'm going to give an overview, talk a little bit about what we have in mind for the future, and maybe go through some FAQ at the end. Matrix World is a multi-chain metaverse, and it is programmable. But before we jump into that, I want to introduce myself and give you guys a little background. My name is Kyle, and I am the CMO of Matrix Labs. Matrix Labs is the team of developers behind Matrix World. I want to start off by talking about my path with crypto and how I got involved, so you understand where I'm coming from. I first found out about crypto in 2011. Back then, I was big into gaming, a lot of MMORPGs. This will be important a little later on. But because of that, I had an extra gaming computer sitting in my house. I heard about this thing called Bitcoin and that you can use your GPU to make some extra money. Long story short, I spent a day researching and thought it sounded like a lot of work for a few extra dollars a month, so I didn't end up mining or setting it up. Instead, my journey with crypto really started in 2013. That's when I began to actively buy and trade Bitcoin, and I've been following the space ever since. Going back to my gaming background, I think this also factors in when you're considering metaverses and NFTs. As I said, I liked to play MMORPGs, and these are very similar to a metaverse. It's a very expansive and open digital world, and they have their own virtual economies as well. So when I first saw NFTs coming onto the scene, I could immediately understand how a digital asset, pixels, data, ones and zeros, how this could have real world value. And some of the dynamics to these marketplaces that would exist. Many people have referenced this in the NFT space, but the auction house in World of Warcraft is really a great example of the psychology people have when trading, buying, selling, undercutting floors for certain digital assets, and where scarcity comes into play for these things. One more thing I want to think about before we dive in. I want to think about the concept of an ideal metaverse. What is that? What does everybody mean when they talk about this metaverse? Now, definitions may change from person to person, and of course, there are different types of metaverses, so to speak. When we speak of the metaverse, we're talking about an open virtual world where people can have a digital existence. Okay? Let's think of the ideal, the core of that concept. What do people want? Well, an ideal metaverse would be decentralized. It would give users the power to own things in that world, and it would be highly interoperable. Ideally, you could connect with anything in the digital world, anything on the internet, anything related to blockchain. So that's our ideal metaverse, right? Highly interoperable, allows you to connect to anything in the digital world, allows you to own and trade, and it isn't centralized. It isn't controlled by one entity such as Meta, right? Now we can jump in. Let's talk about Matrix World and where this fits into that picture. Our vision revolves around creating a metaverse that is creator-friendly, that offers an immersive experience, and that helps to improve the social experience as well. To do that, we want to create a Turing complete multi-chain metaverse that provides users with this higher level experience and more customization. Today, we're going to go over some of these key features in Matrix World and how they help us move one step closer to creating an ideal metaverse. Some of the features we will go over: the multi-chain connectivity, the immersive dApps, decentralized applications, programmable NFTs and objects, as well as the systems behind that and their high-level architecture. Some of the convenient and automated tooling we want to incorporate to improve the creator experience, and a few other smaller features, but it's still important, right? The space name server, and we won't forget that this is going to be a decentralized metaverse as well. We're going to start with multi-chain connectivity. In my mind, I think this is one of the key factors that differentiates Matrix World from a lot of the metaverses that exist today. With the multi-chain connectivity, users can experience a world with unlimited possibilities by connecting to these multi-chain applications, external services, and some other resources. This is tackling one of the biggest problems we see in the current stage of Metaverse Evolution: single chain fragmentation. If we look at most of the major players today, they are single chain metaverses: Decentraland, Sandbox, CryptoVoxels, the list goes on. We'll focus on these for now. Single chain creates a problem. It fragments the ecosystems, it fragments the markets. This really hurts not only the creators, but also the users. Creators have access to a smaller group of people, the capital, the money, right? It's all split up. And at the same time, users have access to less experiences, less applications. It just ruins the user experience. But this is the current state we're in, and this is an improvement. So let's go back to that idea of the ideal metaverse. We said the first inception of the metaverse revolved around gaming, such as MMORPGs or games like Second Life. These games featured many of the things we consider when talking about a metaverse. There's this digital world, users interact and have social connections there. Many of them have virtual economies as well, and digital items, digital assets. But this is far from ideal because these were very centralized. All of the data, all of the items, everything was controlled by the creator of the game. Users couldn't actually own anything. If the creator decided to shut down the game or ban them, a user would lose all of the items they had. They could never take it out of that metaverse or digital world. Now think about this. You're a user, maybe you spent hundreds of hours trying to earn that item in the game or saving up for something, and just like that, it's gone. That's not what we want. So the next step in the evolution of these metaverses was blockchain tech. So these single chain metaverses are a huge step forward. They allow that ownership. They allow that decentralization that was really needed in the metaverse to empower the users and to allow individual creators outside of these centralized owners. But it's still far from what we want in our ideal metaverse. You're still bounded by one network, one chain. It's not truly interoperable. You can't access a lot of different experiences. So the next natural step in this progression would be to expand that, to move to a multi-chain metaverse. The multi-chain metaverse increases the interoperability. It allows users to access more of the digital world from one place. Looking at the Matrix World multi-chain system, we have a few main things to consider. One is how we manage identity when we're working on multiple networks and multiple chains. one wallet address is not going to work because we use different wallets and different addresses on these different networks. To solve this problem, we are building a multi-chain identity system which will manage a user's different on-chain identities through one in-world identity. So you will have your character, your avatar in Matrix World, and this will be connected to many different wallets that can access these different chains. We want the experience to be immersive, as we said earlier. To do that, all of this is going to go on behind the scenes. So when you're interacting with different things, it won't really matter what network they're on. This multi-chain identity system is going to pick the correct wallet for the matching network to connect with that contract or service. Let's talk about those as well now. We've got external contracts and external services. External smart contracts and applications will be accessible, and now you won't just be limited to a single chain. You won't be limited to just the Ethereum network. So we're removing some of those limitations that are created by these single chain metaverses. On top of that, users will also be able to access some external services like NFT marketplaces, other applications, storage protocols, even streaming services, maybe such as YouTube. And this whole system is designed to be extensible. Right now we support Flow and Ethereum, but in the future we hope to add many more chains to this metaverse to again approach that concept of an ideal metaverse. This tackles some of the problems, right? But it doesn't tackle all of it. We also want that immersive experience. In many metaverses today, you leave the metaverse and go to a website when you're interacting with something. We want to change that. So we want this to be a metaverse where you can build immersive 3D applications. This will create a rich and interesting and immersive world for users, and it'll also empower the creators. But how can we make that happen? We need to be able to program within the world. So we are going to have programmable and NFTs and objects. This is how we'll be able to make these applications. All of these in-game objects and NFTs have their own life cycles. You can customize that, their behavior, their appearance, their interactivity via Turing complete programs. And we're going to look into the system that this is all based on, some of the high-level architecture of it. So it all starts with something we call the space virtual machine. This is a virtual machine that will power and run these different decentralized applications in the world. Each land will be allocated a certain amount of compute resources and memory based on the size of the land. You'll also be able to merge adjacent lands and combine their compute resources to build more complex applications. Let's start from the bottom here. We'll start with the Matrix network. Matrix network is just a group of these space virtual machines all connected to each other. The short version for that is SVM. The space virtual machines are virtual machines that provide the compute resources and the memory to run these programs. So again, we call this an SVM for short, and these are where your programs will run. If you have adjacent lands, you can actually combine your SVMs on those lands to create more powerful applications. The size of the land will determine the amount of resources that you have to work with. The resources that these SVMs have will be used to run spaces. A space is a group of objects. It is essentially your application. When we look at the matrix objects, we can break them into scene objects and entities. The scene object is a top-level object. The entity objects are the children objects. All of them together are matrix objects. So as you can see, this is going to be object-oriented programming. And going one step down, we have the NFTs. You will be able to import your NFTs. We also want to empower you to be able to create NFTs in Matrix World. And each NFT that is imported in Matrix World will also become a Matrix object. This means you will be able to program that NFT to have some sort of functionality or to be interactive. Okay, now we'll move on to the next diagram. We see we have a matrix object here. They have their functions, right? Their interactivity, physics, mesh texture, transformation, media attachments, any of these things that go with the object. And it is managed, that lifecycle, by the SVM. It also takes in events from the event publisher or from the interaction client, and it puts all of this stuff out to the content rendering client. That's what you see on the scene. So this is the basic idea behind the objects. And again, each NFT you import will be an object. So you can program these different things. Now, if we go to the next slide, we see the matrix network. A matrix network is just the interconnection of all of these different SVMs. You might have some simple applications, some simple scenes and spaces that run on just a single SVM, but if you have merged LANs, you can actually make very complex applications that combine the resources and memory of multiple interconnected SVMs. So again, zooming back out, now that we've talked about each of those a little bit, you can see the structure, right? We see our space virtual machine and the space that it's running under it. This space consists of its scene object, which contains all of the entity objects beneath it, and all of those together can make the application. So this is another big part of our metaverse, and this is the basis as to how users will be able to build these immersive applications in our metaverse. We think this is very important, and I always go back to this one example. I was having a meeting with one of the Flow projects, and they were telling me about some of the struggles they have being based in Decentraland. Now, if one of these users comes up, they see the project, they like it, they can't actually interact with the project because it's Flow. None of that can happen in World. So the user has to leave the metaverse, go on to the Uniswap website and swap some funds, go on to Blockdo website maybe and create a wallet, then go on to their website, register there, and finally they can interact with their smart contracts or their marketplace, their application. This is just terrible on both ends, honestly. From a creator's standpoint, it just adds a lot of friction to onboarding new users to your product. And then when you look at it from a user standpoint, it just breaks the immersive experience, and it's just not a good experience overall. So by combining this multi-chain connectivity and the ability to create these immersive applications, you can really empower both of them. Imagine instead a user walks into the shop, and they're an ETH user, and they see this really cool project on Flow. What if they could register for Blockdo, swap their funds on a little ATM object that has been programmed to connect to Uniswap, and then interact with this creator's marketplace or application without ever having to leave the world, all in one place? That, we think, is a much better experience for the user, and it will also help the creator so they have access to a larger user base and they can attract more people. It'll break down these barriers. This is kind of the big picture. This is what we're going after. We want to really stop that fragmentation and improve this experience. We also said we want to be creator friendly, so we want to add some convenient automated tooling. We know not everybody is a developer. Sometimes they hear this stuff about the programmable objects, and it's just dizzying to them to even think about. They don't know development, they don't know coding, they don't know modeling, and so they say, what can I do? How can I take advantage of these features? How does it help me? To tackle that, we're going to build some tools like a WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, model editor, and a scene editor that will make it easy for people without experience to still develop and build their lands. We want to have some automated templates as well available. So for example, maybe you're a very talented modeler or developer, you can create a template, put it on our marketplace, and then a user could buy that template and it would help them build their land. We also want to make sure there are some low-code tools so users can take advantage of the programmability even if they don't know any programming languages. And all of this will be topped off with that space name server. It's kind of like the DNS domain name server that we have on the internet. We want to make it so users can easily name their space or application so it's easily found. You don't need a contract address or some other string of numbers and letters that's hard to remember. You can just give it an easy name so it's easy to find and navigate to in the world. These are all some things we're trying to do to just make it a better experience for users and creators alike, and to make it more accessible to everybody. So some use cases behind this. These are similar to many metaverses here. You have the socializing and networking aspect, right? So creating social clubs, having meetups, having virtual conferences. You also have the trade aspect, right? You can create a virtual shop or marketplace, and you can have these applications that you build, and they're immersive. Games and entertainment, because it's programmable, that means you can make some games on your land if you want. You can also do virtual events, virtual concerts, something like that. There's education and work, which I think is being overlooked quite often nowadays. So you can have a virtual headquarters, offices, meetings. You can have lectures in universities for education, where instead of being done over a Zoom call, it can be a more immersive experience, something a little cooler. And of course, what everybody always wonders about, there will be opportunities to earn, whether it's through the applications people create, things they sell, things they trade, or something like advertising, marketing within the world. So now that you have a good overview of the world, let's look at the team a little bit. Matrix World is made by Matrix Labs. They actually were also the technical team behind FantaBear, which launched in January. Pretty crazy. We still can't believe the success that had. But the Matrix Labs team came together in Vancouver in 2017. It was a group of students and tutors and professors who were all very interested in blockchain tech and saw the potential there. Since then, the team has grown to more than 50 members worldwide. And if we go back to those core members who founded it, they also met Dapper Labs in 2017, right around the time of CryptoKitties in the blockchain ecosystem. This was a big inspiration for the team. They loved the idea behind the NFTs and ERC 721, which was created by Dapper. And it inspired them to jump into gaming. One of the core members made a game called Presale Evolution, which actually won some awards. Then in 2018 is when the Matrix Labs team met the White Matrix team, and they worked together and helped them develop ChainIDE. I think most of you here know about ChainIDE. Really cool piece of tech, right? Browser-based developer environment that is also in the cloud, so it makes it very accessible for users to create blockchain projects. And that's one thing both teams have always been really big on. They want to empower these creators, and they want to bring more people into Web3 and blockchain ecosystems. Following that, the team also did a bit of research focused around multi-chain tech and some research focused around the metaverse. So the team has already done multi-chain, right? We've been there. Of course, that was before I was part of the team, but we have the experience with metaverse. We have the experience with multi-chain. We figured it was time to put them together and make a project of our own, and that was the inspiration and the birth of Matrix World. Alongside that, again, we talked about loving to give back. So we've hosted or co-hosted over 100 events similar to this, just to give back to the community and to help bring new people into the space. We'll go over the roadmap really quick here. We've already completed, right, 2021 Q4, the pre-sale. We sold out 5,000 lands, Ethereum, and Flow. Thank you, everybody. If we have any landowners in here, amazing to see the support. Moving into Q1 2022, where we are right now. We've been focusing on building the demo, building the backend, that multi-chain identity system I was talking about earlier. And from a marketing standpoint, we're talking to a lot of projects behind the scenes to try and make new partnerships. As we go forward, in Q2 this year, we're hoping to release the alpha. So this would be late Q2, okay? And it would just be the basic version of Matrix World with some of the core applications, but not all of the tools that we will release in the long run. So you'll have like the Space Virtual Machine SDK and API and some closed beta testing for that part of the game as well. Q3, it'll be more back-end work, right? Working on those convenient tools we were talking about, right? The builder and developer APIs and SDKs, trying to make these different WYSIWYG editors, for instance. And Q4, we hope to bring those into the game for the beta, so people will be able to experience the world with the object and scene editor, the low-code creation tools. And again, we'll continue trying to ramp up partnerships here. And going into 2023, that's when we hope to get the full functioning world live. So it's a very ambitious roadmap. Any of you familiar with game development know how much work and how much time does go into this. So what are we doing now, right? Some of you have seen this short-term roadmap. We're just about done with it. In the past couple months, we added the Blockdo support. We added Rarible, a few other marketplaces. We've updated the map, added land transfers, added user profiles. We've added the ability to put 3D images on the map page for larger lands and images for the smaller lands. And now we're really focusing on these demo spaces and demo avatars. We've shown a glimpse of the Flow headquarters and our progress there. We also have another space we're working on. It's an Ethereum public space, big 10 by 10. This space will feature the Ethereum Museum and some other buildings. So this is our current focus, working on that identity system and building out these demos. Right now, we're working on a lot of back-end stuff in the demo. That's why we haven't had a video update in the past couple of weeks. Nothing to show on the front-end side of things. That's all I have for the project itself. I think I'll spend some time now to go over a few of the common questions we get about it. First, let's touch on multi-chain versus cross-chain. These are a little bit different. When we say multi-chain, we're talking about the ability to be able to connect to different networks, but cross-chain is actually taking something from one network and putting it onto another network, right? When you're bridging between those networks. So we're focusing on multi-chain. We might try to tackle cross-chain at some point in the future, but we'll start with multi-chain. There are a lot of issues, security and otherwise, that come with bridging and cross-chain. Next, some people ask, oh, if I have Flow, if I have ETH, are they separate worlds? Can an ETH user interact with the Flow lands? It's all one world. That's the whole point of this multi-chain. When you're in the world, we don't want you to know or care whether you're on ETH or Flow land. It should just be one immersive experience, and everything that needs to get settled in the back end will get taken care of without you having to worry about it. On top of that, we get a lot of questions about a token. No, we don't have a token. No, we're not against tokens. We just feel that if we do a token, it should be done very strategically. We want to make sure it is something that is well thought out, something that is added for utility, not just as some speculative pump and dump coin. And any of you who have projects, I urge you to take the same mindset. Be considerate of these things. Don't just make a token because people want a token, but be strategic about it, right? Why do we need a token? Why should we have a token? What is the utility behind it? And this is what can help you create something that is valuable instead of something that'll pump and then crash and leave a lot of bag holders. Tokenomics is a very complicated and deep subject, so we won't get into it here. I think those are the main questions we get about it. If you have any other questions, please feel free to visit us in our Discord. I would love for you to stop by and say hey. And if I could leave you with one thing from today's talk, I would say the mindset. As a creator, the mindset is really, really important. Sometimes you can get, lost in the weeds. You're so focused on the details that you lose the big picture. So remember, every now and then, it's good to take a step back, to think, where does this fit in the big picture? What is the purpose of this? Asking questions like, well, what is the ideal metaverse? Like, why are they all single chain right now? Why don't we make a multi-chain one? Asking these questions, looking at the big picture and taking that step back, I think can be very helpful when you're creating your projects. You can question why some things are the current way. Like, why do we do it this way? Why don't we do that way? Why haven't we done this yet? And that's how you can come across some interesting and innovative ideas for your projects that can really help take them to the next level, help progress the technology, and help move the whole space forward. Thank you all again for your time today. I really hope you enjoyed this talk I gave, this presentation, and I just want to say thank you all for being a part of this community and this ecosystem and for contributing to its growth and its advancement.